Kare Shalom, welcome to our watercolor journey. Today we do a vignette with a twist. Usually a vignette is a background that does not touch the sides of your picture plane. In today's painting, the vignette is portrayed as a snippet from a bigger picture. Let's see how it's done. The materials used are listed in the description below. We will use two brushes, a silver black velvet number 3 round and the Rosemary & Company Sable blend number 1 round. The paper is Arches cold press 100% cotton. You will also need a bit of masking fluid, some soap in a bar or a liquid form, and an old brush as well. On the palette we have Ultramarine, Van Dyke Brown, a dark blue-grey mix of Ultramarine and Van Dyke Brown, Sap Green, an olive green mix of Sap Green and Van Dyke Brown, light red, Dioxazine Violet, and a burgundy mix of light red and Dioxazine Violet. The arch block is placed on a slight angle to help the paint flow. To maintain the sharp angle of the vignette on the right, you can place a strip of masking tape on the paper. Use a little bit of soap to cover the brush. It is best to use an old brush or a masking brush, as the fluid might ruin your good brushes. Dab the soapy brush on a paper towel and then dip it into the masking fluid. You don't need a lot of fluid. Use the masking fluid to paint the tree trunks and in the background. Allow the fluid to dry properly. It should take about 15 minutes or so. And then touch the fluid lightly with your finger. It should feel a bit tacky, but it shouldn't adhere to your finger. Wet the paper with a spray bottle or use your brush and add dollops of water randomly. There should be enough water on the paper, but it should not be a solid layer. You need some dry patches. Use the medium-sized brush for the background. Start by adding some ultramarine very lightly at the top. Because you want a vignette, you don't work the paint up to the edge of the water. Dab it in about 1 centimeter from the edge of the water and allow it to spread naturally in the water. Then add a touch of the light red. Add Dioxazine Violet to get a darker tone in the background. Now you can keep dripping the different colors from your palette into the wet background. The water will flow down and create beads of color at the bottom of the wet area. Don't worry about the beads now. You will use that water later, so let it lie. Keep your touch light and vary the colors as much as possible. Use the brush to coax the water beads towards the bottom of the page. Don't go too far down. You want to leave plenty of white spaces around your painting. Ensure that the colors flow naturally and that you leave white spaces here and there. A solid background will cover all the light in your painting and make it flat. The white spaces will help to create depth and will enhance the transparency of your painting. This loose style of painting will give you a kind of a ghost picture, which you can then enhance with the next layer to create your own unique landscape. Take the paint from the puddles to enhance your terrain. You will see that the sides and bottom will form hard lines, and the top should have a lovely soft look. The soft edges give distance and enhances the atmospheric feeling of your painting. Note that the tonal value of your background is quite important. You should have light, medium and dark tones in your initial wash for this painting. Add some of the Ultramarine and Van Dyke mix to give the darker tones. Don't overdo the background and don't fiddle too much. Add enough color to give you something to work with, but keep it fairly simple. When you're satisfied with your background, you can lift the excess water from the bottom of the painting with a brush or the tip of a paper towel. You can clean the brush thoroughly and dab it on a towel to dry it a bit. Then use the belly of the brush to lift the excess water. Don't smear the brush, just dip it into the puddle of water and then dab it on the towel again to remove the moisture from the brush. Allow the painting to dry. It is important that it's completely dry because if there are still damp patches, it will smear when you remove the masking fluid and it might even tear your paper. So use a hairdryer if you have to, if you think it's not dry enough. Now you can use your finger or a rubber cement eraser to remove the masking fluid. Gently wipe your hand over the surface to make sure that all the fluid is removed. You can also remove the tape on the side of the painting now. You can now use the thinner brush for more detail. Use the tip of the brush and add the foliage. Add a few branches and dot the leaves in lightly in the shape of trees. The foliage should be very suggestive to maintain the atmospheric feeling of your painting. Use the cooler colors at the back and the warmer colors in the front. This will help to create dimension in your landscape. Your foliage should be mostly dots and dashes, nothing solid, nothing too detailed. Use the white lines created by the masking fluid to guide you where your trees should be. Take your time and think about what each tree should look like, what colors you want it to be. They are all different. Each one is unique, so let each tree tell its own story. This is quite a time-consuming process, so don't be hasty. Think about which colors would complement each other and which colors would push the trees forward and which would make them recede. Lighter, cooler colors will recede. Darker, warmer colors will bring the trees forward. All these aspects will help you to create a forest that looks realistic and interesting. You can draw a thin shadow line on the left of each of the white tree trunks to give them dimension and to show the direction of the light. In this case, your light is coming from the right, so everything on the left of an element will be in shadow. Use the belly of the brush to add a few contour lines to your foreground. This will help to define the terrain and lead your eye into the painting. Add a few grasses here and there, but be sure to leave enough of the light background. Use the light red to add some warmth to the sunny side of the tree trunks. You can use the dark mix to add a few final shadows and to add a few splatters to give you some texture. The light patches which were left in the background now give a beautiful shimmer to the painting. The secret to painting a vignette is to make sure that the paint does not flow all the way to the edges. It fixes your eye on the actual painting and creates a beautiful natural border for your work. Thank you so much for joining us today. We hope to see you again soon. Vaya con Dios.